Hi, everybody. I'm Misty Buck, president of Miss Ink, and we are here for another Marketing Monday. You know, this is one of my favorite weeks of the year. It is Halloween week. I don't know if you like Halloween, Suzanne.
Love Halloween.
I love it. I'm so excited. So it's the fall. It's a little muggy and humid out there, but hopefully it'll cool off a little bit in time for the weekend festivities. So anyhow, to get on track today with Marketing Monday, I want to welcome my guest today, Suzanne Dewitt. She is the founder and managing partner of Dewitt PLLC. Right? Did I get that right?
Yes.
Okay. And she does something really cool, actually. It's international tax and private wealth planning. And so usually when we talk about taxes, you're like, oh, yeah, how interesting can that be? But she actually has a really interesting story and a really incredible approach to the business. So I'm so excited to welcome her here today. Suzanne, welcome. Thank you for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, especially on Halloween week.
Halloween week. I know. So tell us about your practice. How'd you get started? And we were talking a little bit off camera about what drew you to it, which I find so interesting because I was like, what would draw somebody in my creative mind, in my very right brain mind, what would draw somebody to taxes, especially with the stories that you were sharing with me? So tell us a little bit about that.
Okay. What drew me to taxes was sort of a byproduct of my original focus in law school, which was on mergers and acquisitions. And having studied mergers and acquisitions and tried to plan my career towards that, oftentimes when I was reading cases or doing research, I was drawn to the people behind the mergers and acquisitions, the major shareholders, the purchasers, the buyer, there are people behind these big sort of like anonymous entities. And I found myself looking more and more about the story of the people and what drove them to do a particular transaction. So it just basically morphed into, tax planning and international tax planning, which is the niche that I have, is really working with people directly or very closely held companies or family offices.
Yeah. And you were telling me too that a lot of your clients have been with you for a really long time. Yeah. So like, what's sort of like, maybe there's not I'm assuming there's not like a normal trajectory, but when you work with somebody, right, it's very one-on-one, very personalized. So what is that process like, just so we understand a little bit more about how you might be able to help some of the people who are watching this, and then we're going to get into our marketing tips.
Sure. Well, what I do is, my clients are basically they're lifers. I retain clients for 10, 15 years. So I'm very selective in my clients, but really when somebody comes to me, they want to jump into like, I've got these numbers and this tax, and I just say, wait, let's step back. Tell me about you. Tell me about your family. Tell me about your business. How did you get into this business? Basically what you're asking me. And oftentimes that context gives me a plan that they never even thought of, but that actually helps them, because looking at straight numbers and papers is not really the cure-all. You have to go. That's
not the story really of what's going on, you're saying. Okay.
So, and then once you learn and have such a close personal relationship with somebody, they build trust. It's a mutual trust, and it literally goes on for years. So I have to be very selective with my clients, because now, it's a 10-year endeavor.
Right. I would think that numbers are something that people really have to trust you with in order to trust you to do these major estate planning.
Yes. Like plans and structures. A lot of tax attorneys that I've seen, basically give you this PowerPoint presentation with a bunch of numbers modeled and say, look, this is it. This is what you do. Just believe me, trust me that this is what's going to work.
Right.
And what I do, I guess maybe is what my specialty is, dumbing things down that a 5-year-old can understand.
Oh, so you're like me. So I need somebody like you, because people will show me numbers and my eyes sort of glaze over and I'm like, I guess it makes sense. Like,
right. It's easy to be literal and say, look, these are the numbers and everything, but how does it apply?
Right.
And that's the piece that's often missing. And if it's not easy to do, if you can take something very complex and very multi-leveled and everything and boil it down to your life, your kids, your business, your succession planning, everything, it is understood in such a different way. And I often like to teach people about tax planning. They often, like my clients, learn a lot from me because of that, and then start asking the right questions. So I've often, trained them well.
But I love that so much because, like, okay, so for me personally, like I just revealed, I'm not a big numbers person. So I feel like if I was to trust, if I'm going to really build trust with somebody, if they're just straight up talking to me only about the numbers, I feel like the trust only goes so far. But you really build these relationships with your clients, and you get to know them, and that you're saying has been huge for you.
The numbers actually come last oftentimes, because when you want to have tax savings and tax efficient structures, sometimes we're fixing the past, but oftentimes you want to plan for the future, and that plan involves people making decisions about their lives. And then I translated into tax optimization planning. But I first need to know what your life is about and what your planning is about. And I will tell you the most, efficient structure for you. Even if you have a preconceived notion that, I want to save X amount in taxes, it's so much more than that. But it ends up happening where when you do see the numbers and I'm, portrayed in such a way, you have that context and that deeper understanding and able to understand it without, having to dig deeper because we already have.
Right. No, that makes total sense. Like that kind of brings the whole picture together, right? You're saying. So how have you, we know you're successful. You said you've had clients for over 10 years now, right? Is that correct?
Yeah. I mean, on average, my clients 15
years. Like that's incredible. So I know you're very selective about the people that you work with and vice versa, because it's just a very specific kind of service, right? Like it's not like you're one of like these tax shops on the side of the road that people are just going to walk in. Like we're talking something very different, right? I mean, really, it's planning for your life, and
it's lifestyle planning.
It's lifestyle planning, and you were saying too that sometimes even some bits of life coaching come into that.
A lot of life coaching. It's funny when people ask me like, what do you do? Well, I'm a tax planner, but really I'm a life coach and I happen to do tax planning. So,
I love that. I'm a life coach and I happen to do tax planning. I love it.
It's, so definitely. I think that, really there's a personal connection you need to make, and not everybody needs that type of tax planner, and not every tax planner needs that type of client. But so, I either click, or not. So the type of person I'm with will trust me, will know that I'm thinking about everything in mind and what have you with the tax planning. But it's definitely, I think what's interesting is that, tax planning is not tax preparation. It's not accounting. And a lot of times people think and get mistaken. And the best way to like divide that world is that tax preparation and tax in accounting, if you will, is usually done at the end of the year.
Right.
It's a knowledge, like a learning in history, where they go through the past year, see what you've done and how to memorialize that.
Right.
Where I come in is in the beginning of the year, ideally, and where you're able to prospectively plan out your affairs and see what laws are coming, laws are changing.
Interesting. That makes sense. That makes way more sense.
And and for people that clicks as the, like, what's the difference? So, because I'm not an accountant. I don't prepare tax returns.
Right.
But I can tell you that, you need to do this, this, and this to optimize your tax savings, which will be memorialized on your future returns. So I often, collaborating with accountants, and their tax preparers is really the nirvana of my practice, because then everybody is synced.
That's super smart. I love that. Because you're right. A lot of times it's really disconnected, right? And this one's telling you this, and that person's telling you that. And then you have like your life insurance person telling you this, and no, you need this policy, and this is good for taxes. And everyone's taxes. And you're like, I don't know. Right? Like, do you ever have people that feel that way? I mean, I certainly do.
No, and the client is the filter amongst the many voices, which is not who you want to be the filter, because they're not supposed to know everything that so I really, was part of my approach, I want to know who their accountant is, their advisors, their everything, because it's part of meeting the family, if you will.
I love it. So I love that so much. I think that makes this like genius. Hello, like, why doesn't everybody do this? Like, right? Like, it makes so much sense. So this is a show about marketing, so I do want to touch on this a little bit. So how do you use marketing to help grow your business? We gave a hint in the description of the show here, but like, how are you using marketing to grow your business and sustain your business?
I think a prime example is, a lot of my articles and editorials are anecdotal. So I will have something that I've seen in my day to day, and I'll think, this is interesting, and I will, write on it and publish it. That to me is the sort of the entry point rather than standardized, rules. And then so the whole digital marketing for me has been the platform that just takes it to the next level immediately. I'll have an article I print out, and if your LinkedIn, your Facebook, your Instagram, your blog, your website all sync, it really has this exponential reach. And if it's not synced, it really is limiting. I've learned so much about like digital marketing is not just, focusing on one website. It's synchronizing everything in the digital universe.
That's really interesting. So when you have posted something and it's gone to these different sites, have you gotten comments that have built relationships and or turned into a lead for you?
Oh, yes. Yeah. And that's really like, it's the unintentional marketing where a lot of times I just want to help people out there.
Like through education, you mean?
And it, a lot of clients, again, I have to be like, I just don't have the time. I mean, I want to be available for everybody. And one of the cornerstones of that is that I don't bill hourly, for example.
Interesting.
I bill per project because I don't want, you, Misty, calling me and getting a bill for 0.1. I want you to realize that you can talk to me as a person as often as you want.
Right.
Because a lot of these conversations are personal conversations, and you don't
want to feel like you're on the phone and you have to like just hurry up to get your question answered because you're being billed. Like I don't know if anyone out there has ever had that experience, but it's not very comforting, right? Like you feel panicked.
Yeah. And it actually takes away from the focus of the conversation.
Right.
So I oftentimes will call clients. I want to hear how you're doing, really, and how was your weekend and what's your plan?
Oh, so you just call to check in, you mean?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
And because I want, a lot of times things happen in life that they don't realize are applicable, and they are applicable.
Right.
So it's keeping that open dialogue. They call me Mama Bear because I'm always checking on, but it's, a lot of things is that you don't know what you don't know. And some, like the 6 degrees of separation of taxation, everything is related to taxation in one way or another. And a lot of people don't realize that. So I help you say, well, look, this has to do with this, and what have you. So,
and I love it. And I love what you said earlier, that you really try to make it like in plain terms, like tell the story, help people really understand and see it, not just like shove numbers in their face to help them see this. Right?
Yeah. And I think that's where the empathy comes in.
Right.
I really want to understand and feel what your current situation is. I've learned from colleagues who actually have done the same thing as I have. I mean, there's, for example, one of them doesn't have a chief executive officer. They have a chief wellness officer. And I thought that was so unique.
Yeah.
Like your office, you have a chief wellness officer. It's really, you have to be healthy and well in order to project that to your clients. So the culture in my office is one of, you need to treat everybody with kindness, gratitude, be humble, don't mistreat other people because yes, you need the technical skills, but if you have if you aren't able to treat other people fairly, be it your seniors or your subordinates, you really don't have a good culture to foster creativity, client maintenance, and marketing.
Yeah. So there's a story that I heard about you that I would love for you to tell right now. And this is a perfect example about empathy and how you treat people. And this is how you were getting ready to lead this meeting, and you had yet to take your seat at the head of the table. And what happened?
I walked into a conference room and there was like 12 or 15 people around the table waiting for the person at the head of the table, not knowing, who they were yet. We hadn't met because it was on negotiating a transaction. And I was the last person to walk in. Well, as soon as I walked in the room, the first thing people say to me is, could you get me a decaf, no cream? Can I have a Coke or a water and everything?
And perhaps you're like an administrative assistant or something.
Yes, and right in that. So that doesn't bother me. I went and I get all the beverages and I get all the snacks. And I put it down, and then I take a seat at the head of the table and proceed with the meeting. Right. And people are like, "Oh, I'm so sorry, I didn't know." What didn't you know? Because there's nothing to know. I think it's all organic. I mean, you've got to every level of your life you have to be content with in order to exude that to others.
I love it. And so how do you think like that? I love this attitude, and I love that, your culture is about really how well you're treating other people, regardless of what quote unquote level they're at or age they have, whatever, any of that. So how do you think that helps you sustain the relationships, continue to build your practice organically? Because you did say too, like you put the stuff out on social media, but you don't have like a hard marketing plan, right? Where you're out and like, I need to get leads. A lot of it happens organically, right?
Absolutely. There's the movie where you build it and they will come. Right. That's the story of my practice. It's just, they just come to me. I think the synchronizing of the digital marketing allows me to get my message out. Which is very important to me. Mm-hmm. The fact that people call me and need my help and everything, that just comes in droves. Right. But I almost find that digital marketing and marketing itself is the way to help others and get my message out to the world. I feel like I need to help, get my knowledge and help whoever I can, whether they come to me for, tax advice after based on what I've written about is fine. Or if I can just help somebody think about something with their tax attorney, I'm happy to.
Right. So it sounds like it's really, the empathy is also about just really being there for the individual, not thinking numbers, not thinking leads, not thinking of a lot of times people will tell you and they built very successful businesses on that, but success can mean different things for different people, right? And so when we were talking earlier about being a boutique, I think the beauty in that is the ability to really service the individual, right?
Yes. And what I'm doing in my boutique practice is, because of my training, I'm doing large law firm level planning, right? But in a boutique setting with boutique, attributes. So a lot of clients have become fed up with the large law firms and the, meeting 5 different people along the way. You don't know who to call.
Oh my gosh, that has been frustrating for me before too, where you call and you get one person and they're responsible for interviewing you and bringing in the business. And then somebody else wants to talk to you about what you actually need. And then then your case actually gets passed on to somebody else that you never met. And you're like, I don't know. It's like a trust factor, totally like we're talking about, right? Yeah. And so I can see the beauty in what you're trying to avoid by really just making sure that you're matching with the right people and helping them all around. Right?
Yeah, you don't want to be bounced around. This is your life we're talking about. And when you call my office, you want to talk to me, and I want to talk to you. I don't want to talk to your advisor, and I want to know about you.
Right.
So definitely, and that's why you shouldn't, and any tax practitioner shouldn't take every client that just walks in the door. Because it's not sustainable to keep that one-on-one approach.
Right. If that's what you're looking for. Right. And some people, they don't want to run their business like that. And some people don't want to go to a business like that. They don't want the relationship. They just want to know that things are getting done. So I think there's a space for everybody.
There's a space for everybody.
But I love the approach that you're taking. I love this idea of the culture that you're building, the empathy. To me, people say, business isn't personal, but to me, the relationships is what makes business a business to me in the way I run things, which is very aligned with what you've done. So I love what you're saying. And I love the humility and the gratitude and, all these things that you're expressing here.
Yeah.
So let's say somebody wanted to, go ahead.
No, please.
Let's say somebody wanted to come to you, right? Have a tax planning problem. What are some ideal or common questions that you can answer for people if they were they're watching this and they want to know more about working with you because they are also aligning with these things that you're saying? What are some of the things that they can come to you for specifically? So we talked about planning, but what are some of the questions?
Okay, sure. I mean, a lot of people come to me first of all and just say, I'm paying, way too much taxes. I'm having a great year in revenue. How can I, bring
keep
this
more money?
keep more money. In those types of broad questions. I have, interestingly, people that come to me with, I have this business. It's a closely held business, and my wishes are in my estate plan. There's a lot of times people don't realize that business continuity planning is for your business in lieu of an estate plan. Your estate plan shouldn't dictate your business, because oftentimes there's a disconnect. Plans get stale. So I have this concept of business continuity planning that is basically estate planning for businesses.
Super smart.
Yeah, it's just really by trial and error, because I've seen how many times estate plans, 20 years later, when the business is gone and scaled to so much more, your successor directors or, people that are your principals aren't the ones that you intended. I also have, because of the international aspect of what I do, a lot of people come to me with questions of, well, I have this, distribution business, and we're getting contracts in Spain, we're getting contracts in Italy. How do I structure this in the sense that I'm not paying taxes overlapping in every jurisdiction? So there's a harmony that you create and design flows and contracts in such a way that, you don't end up overpaying taxes, because obviously when you overpay taxes, nobody's going to come to you and say, well, you overpaid, here's your check.
Right.
Nobody's going to let you know when that. So
if you underpay, you'll hear about that pretty quickly, right? But you don't hear oh, you paid too much here.
Right.
Like when you're at a cashier, sorry, you gave me too much change. Although most people are digital, but it still happens sometimes.
It's the conceptually, I really want to, help people on their income tax planning now, which is the business and everything, and the business continuity aspect of their life. What do you plan 5 years from now? What do you plan 10 years from now? It's not looking at it like, what can we strike up this year? That's not the kind of client that I want. I'm not like you said, the person on the end of the block, the one project flip.
Like the stores that are like packed in tax season.
Yeah. With accountants, and they think I'm going to be doing, a tax return. But
right.
It's so much more than that. So as more in advance I can get clients, the better. Oftentimes the reality is I, come and put out fires and then are able to do the planning. But there's a lot of value in that too. Like it's almost the end of the year and they've not done this, and we fix it. It's
right. Yeah. So, okay. So for perfect example, we talked about Halloween earlier. So we are in the last quarter of the year. It is coming to an end. Like we have like 8 weeks left, if you don't count this week, of the year. So like if someone were to come to you like, oh my gosh, right now, does that happen? Like, do people come to you this late in the year? Like, I need to fix this now.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I plan for the unplanned, and it's invariable, like in November and December, but that's the nature of the game. If we didn't have that, if there weren't tax problems, we wouldn't have work. So yeah, a lot of times people have just gone and they're on extension and they've paid their October 15th taxes and realized what is going on. This is, my business has grown and my tax planning has not kept up with it. What can I do for next year? Is there anything left I can do in this last quarter?
Right.
So next year when I report this year.
Right.
So yes, Christmas is a lot of times my busiest time of the year.
I can bet, because I know too, just from, I mean, it's related, kind of related, but not related. Like I always see not I always see, but statistics have shown that like the last 2 or 3 days of the year are when people make the most of their donations to nonprofit organizations because they're trying to get like the last of their tax planning. I suppose it could be considered that, although I'm sure it comes from the goodness of their heart too. But I'm sure there's a tax planning component to that as well, right?
Yeah, I mean, there's like taking another example, the gift tax exemption is super high. This, has been super high. It's 11 point million.
Oh wow.
And that is at risk of being lowered into the next coming tax year. So everybody this year has been scrambling to make gifts,
right?
Which are tax, like you want your exemption to apply to the gift. So gifts has been my bottleneck lately. Of
interesting.
But there's a lot of tax changes coming, and sometimes clients just want to know, like, everything, you're fine, your plan is flexible enough, you're going to be fine. But there are a lot of fundamental changes coming to the tax. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah, we'll see what happens for sure. So we are actually coming up on the end of our time together, which I told you goes by super fast, right?
Yeah.
Like, I hope you felt like it wasn't like dragging teeth, like, oh, this lady.
No.
I'm just kidding.
I had fun.
Good. So is there anything that we haven't talked about that you want to share with other people about, what you have going on? Or how they can contact you?
Well, yes, you have the contact information in my website, and you can, don't be shy to pick up the phone, and you're often going to get me.
Yeah.
Even if it's after hours. I do. It's part of my crisis management, and the empathy factor is being available at all times.
Yeah.
Because I would expect that as well.
Right. That's amazing. So I don't know how you do it all. So you do all this. And by the way, she is a mother of 2 young children, right?
Yes.
And you do all kinds of stuff. You do, you used to do dirt bike. Was it dirt bike racing? And
Yes.
Okay. So how do you do all these things? That's really my last question. I want to know, how do you do, I'm terrible at this. How do you do all these things?
You get good people to help you. You have to build a good team
answer.
Because I cannot do everything on my own. And just as I help foster relationships, I have my network of relationships, and I'm nothing without my, team of people.
Your team of people.
Which I'm a team member for them too. It's a flat,
Right.
flat organization where we all just come together to help each other out, but you can't do it alone. You have to surround yourself by good people that are smarter than me in, raising children and stuff. I acknowledge that. I'm humble in that way, and I have a lot to learn. So.
Right. That's incredible. So, well, on that note, I think we will wrap up for today. If you guys want to reach Suzanne, her website is just like her last name, DewittPLLC.com. You can reach her there. And we had a few people say hello. Michael and Tina said hello. We missed that on this show. But yeah, so you can reach her over there. You can also email her at Suzanne@DewittPLLC.com. And I'm sure she will be happy to answer your questions and get you pointed in the right direction at the very least, right? So I love it. Okay, so our theme today on marketing was about using empathy. Yes, digital marketing. Use it to educate others, which I love. It's not just a promotional thing. It's you use it to educate others, and that has led to leads and calls for you, but also just really caring about the individual has been how you've really built your practice using that empathy. So, and being the life coach who just happens to do tax planning. I love that. I think that needs to be a tagline somewhere.
Definitely.
We need to get that done. So anyways, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome.
This was great.
And I hope everyone has a fun Halloween, safe, healthy, happy, all that. Be well. And we will see you soon for another Marketing Monday. And you want to be on the show or you have any questions for me, you guys know how to find me. So have a great day, and I will see you next time.